sounds like you all had a great deal of fun that I was lucky enough to avoid. Those of you who read the little bio about what I'm going to talk about today, I was originally inspired in this direction. I was at a National Speakers Association conference in Las Vegas. And I'm not here to pick fights or start any wars, but Toastmasters is not always held in the highest of regards with professional speakers, because sometimes we get so caught up in evaluating, and we are wrapped up in the mechanisms of speaking that we forget to communicate, that we enunciate wonderfully, and we do not always connect with the people in the audience. We stay on time, darn it, but we don't always make a point. And so the tools, the framework, the ideas that I'm going to share with you today, hopefully, will help you communicate and connect, not only when you're presenting from here, but when you're communicating with individual human beings, which I think oftentimes is even more important. I don't know how many of us make our living or have huge impact on the world in our Toastmasters meetings. Some of us do, some of us don't. Some of us speak in a larger stage, some of us don't. But all of us have family and friends and business associates and people that we communicate with one-on-one all of the time. And our ability to connect and bridge the gap exists just as strongly and vitally in those one-on-one communications as they do with a larger group. I think all communications between human beings starts with trust. That we don't like people we don't trust. We're not interested in communicating with people who we don't trust. There are two kinds of trust, and some of us miss that. One is character trust, or being a good person trust. Are you a good guy? And that's the trust most of us think about. The second trust is competency trust. Do you know what you're doing? Because you can be a really nice person who's absolutely clueless. And in that area, it would not be wise for me to trust you. By the same token, you can be extremely competent and not incredibly ethical. And it would also be foolish for me to trust you in that circumstance. There's a story about if you were to be stranded on a desert island and you're there with your very good friend or your spouse, and it becomes apparent that your kidney needs to come out. And your spouse goes, I have a sharp pocket knife, let me get that out of there for you. How many of us feel this would be an exceptionally foolish course of action? They have no business digging around in your innards. They don't have the competency. And so it would be foolish for you to trust them. By the same token, would you want to be on that very same island with an extremely skilled surgeon who's also a liar, a sneak, and a cheat? Would you want that person digging around inside you? And again, my assumption is most of us probably wouldn't. And so, first part of communication with any person or group is trust. And that's founded on both your competency, do you know, in this case, what you're talking about, and do you have other people's interests in mind? Let me bridge a little bit of that with you, because not all of you know me. I was introduced, I'm Brian Higgins. My formal profession is I'm a martial arts instructor. And so I spend a lot of time helping children develop that strong character. And one of the things I help children understand, I hope I can share with you, because really aren't most of us just 6-year-olds with a whole lot of practice, that if we mind our character trust, and what does that mean is that we're honest, we are ethical, we are forthcoming, we respect and value other people, then we can fix our competency trust. I can't say, I don't know how, and I can learn. I can say, oops, I messed up, and I can attempt to make amends. However, if I am lax, if I am soft, if I'm a bit liberal with my own ethical character trust, trustworthiness, that's those of you who are writing things down. I think that's a wonderful word. If you want to be trusted, take steps to be trustworthy. Interesting idea, right? People don't trust me. Well, what are you doing? And that, to take that just a step further, because I do really enjoy that linguistic game there, that in being trustworthy, not only trustworthy, but in perception to be trustworthy. That not only are you not going to do things that are unethical, you're not even going to do things that might appear unethical. Slightly higher standard. But that from that full disclosure and that absolute transparency and that coming to serve, people will tend to trust you. How many of us have a relative, usually an older aunt or a grandma, of course some of us are different places in that spectrum, who hugs you but it's not for you? She takes hugs, she doesn't give hugs. Who knows one of those people? And we all feel the difference, as opposed to someone who hugs you for you and they give hugs. And so I hope that when we're communicating with other people, we want to be trustworthy, we need to know our stuff, we need to do our research, we need to do our homework, we need to be knowledgeable, competent, and then we need to make sure that we're coming to give and not coming to take. How many of us have had many, many conversations with people and we can feel it, that they're coming to take from us? Are we very receptive to those messages? I don't think so. And so I think it's incredibly incompetent that we are minding our trust. And our trustworthiness, again, two areas. One, your competency. The other, your integrity, your character. Now, once all of that is in order, we can start to play with the mechanics. How do I communicate with other people? And I'm not going to share things that I've seen in any Toastmasters manual. These are communications in a little bit broader spectrum. Consider for a minute the challenges we have in getting a message from me to you. It starts out with my intention, what I intend to do, my character. And then it goes through whatever my emotional state is at the time. Do I communicate differently depending on how I feel? And then it hits my vocabulary, my life experience, my perception of those words. Is that not also true? Then it travels through the air and whatever the environment is. Because where we are changes the meaning. Are there some jokes that work great in a bar that should not be told in a church? Same joke, same people. Context matters. And so the message travels through the air and then it hits your ears. And your meaning of those words may not mean the same thing as it does to me. Who's ever had that conversation? The first rule of discourse is define the terms. If we're both using the same words, but they don't mean the same thing to us, we're going to have a problem. Then it hits your emotional state. Are there things I can say in a day when you're in a good mood and you receive it totally differently than if you are in a bad mood? I tend to think so. And then it hits your intention. And it hits where you're coming from and where your integrity is. And anywhere in that sequence, the chain breaks down. Who's ever watched a presenter and seen one of those break down? Who's ever had a conversation with an individual human being and had that break down? Who's ever been the one who broke down? And then the communication doesn't work. If we say, hey, look at that word for a minute, communication, right? Which is like communion, like come together. If communication is to bridge the gap, if it's the bringing together, and we have these links, any one of those can break down and it's no longer communication. Right? I'm not talking to you, I'm talking at you. And I don't think that's who or what we want to be. I don't think that's effective communication. Two more frameworks. And some of you who are real diligent noticed that it should say 1, 2, 3, 4 in here somewhere. There it is. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1 was trust. 2 was 2 kinds of trust. Here's 3. There are 3 primary learning styles. Different ways that we prefer to receive information. And for those of you who are taking notes, I'll give them to you quickly and then we'll flesh them out a little bit. First one is visual, which means by seeing. Second one is auditory, by the sound, by hearing. And the third is kinesthetic, to feel. Some of us learn by watching, right? Show me, let me see it. Some of us, aerobics videos, what's that all about? Well, you want to see it.